Yeah. We actually used to film this live, but because it was on Saturday. But the crew can't come on Saturday. That's why we have to do it like this. But yes.
Your intro.
Right.
You get over there so you can switch one scene over.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Because then it'll go to a white screen, white shot.
Okay, that's fine. My intro is going to take like about 3 minutes anyway.
Oh.
Yeah, because I got to set this up because it's a new subject this week. Welcome to the living room with me, and I'm Charlene Singleton. And I'm here today with my good friend, Michelle Sanchez. I am so excited for our show today. Today we are going to be talking about don't waste your time. And this is an incredible subject to talk about. And even right now, as I think about that, I'm thinking about a story that I heard a number of years ago, and it's about this little boy. His name was Johnny, and his mom was in the kitchen cleaning up, and Johnny says, "Mom, will you come and watch the sunset with me?" And the mom says, "Yes, Johnny, as soon as I finish cleaning the kitchen, I'll come." She says, "Go outside and wait for me." So Johnny goes and he sits on the couch and he waits and he waits and he waits, and Mom doesn't come out. So Johnny goes back in the kitchen and he pulls on Mom's apron and he says, "Mom, are you going to come and watch the sunset with me?" And the mom says, yes, Johnny, I'll be there in a minute. Go back out and I'll be there. So Johnny goes out and he's sitting on the couch and he's fidgeting on the porch and he's fidgeting. And then he comes back in and he pulls on his mom's apron and he says, Mom? And she says, yes, Johnny. He says, Mom, don't you know sunsets never wait? And it just talks to us about time. Time goes so fast, and we know that with cartoons, you would see the guy, should have had a clock, throwing a clock out the window in a cartoon, and they would talk about how time flies. So today, that's what Michelle and I are going to talk about. And like I said, just to let you know, Michelle works at the LA County Sheriff's Department. That's her official title. She's also the mother of Stephen. That's another title. But I know Michelle as the twin sister of Michael and Michelle Sanchez. And Michael, I just want to thank Michael for coming today. And he was our hairdresser, our hairstylist today. Hooked Michelle up, hooked me up. And so thank you, Michael. We want to just thank you for doing that. And today, if you all notice, we have a different set. And it's our living room set. Once again, because we're welcoming you into the living room, but I want to thank Pastor Chucky Perez, too, for this awesome set. And finally, because this is like a new day for us, I want to also thank my son, Pastor Chuck Singleton II, for always being here. He does everything with my show. He produces it, and he does everything. So thank you. So Michelle, how are you?
Sure, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, we're gonna have a good time.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so now you know I told you already. This is casual.
Okay.
Okay, you are in my living room.
Yes, and this is how we do.
And
this is what we do.
This is what,
This is what we do. So they're going to get a peek into what we do.
Right, a peek into a glimpse.
A glimpse.
Into I like that. A glimpse into the living room. So, okay, so Michelle, today we're talking about don't waste your time. And as you know, that's a play. We can do a play on that. Don't waste your time. So let's just talk about the lighter part of this. When I say don't waste your time, tell me a couple of things that come to your mind.
Well, don't bother with it. Don't worry about it. Wasting time worrying about different things. Don't give it the time of day.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right. That's what Michael, your twin, was even talking about that. Don't give that the time of day. And that's what happens. You know, for me, when I was thinking about this, I thought about don't waste your time on unnecessary things. Don't waste your time on things that are unproductive. Don't waste your time on things that are ineffective. So, because we can end up losing time.
And Pastor Carr, just like we've been, in this time of quarantine and isolation, we've had plenty of time to do a lot of things.
Right.
But what has been, 3-4 months? Now we're into this, and what have we been doing with our time? I know some people, they've been renovating their homes. Some people have been working on their businesses. Some people have been working on their health. Some people have just been watching Netflix and chilling and doing whatever they do.
Exactly.
Or watching television.
When I look at that, I think about the fact that you can't go back to yesterday. Because I was even thinking about this time of quarantine. You know, we went in on March the 16th. Monday, March the 16th is when they said, we saw it coming.
Yes.
But it was Monday, March 16th. They said everybody stays in the house. And then it was April 16th, and then May 16th. And then so many people, I know, even for myself, I got a lot done during that time. But I looked back and I said, man, I could have even gotten more done.
Yes.
And so we can end up wasting time that way. But I was thinking about different ways that people do waste time. Okay, not the productive part, the other part. So how would you say people waste time?
Well, one thing is getting stuck in situations mentally, emotionally, staying stuck in a certain mindset, wasting time over past pain, past hurt. Not that they're not valid. The things that we go through, it's there for a reason, but sometimes we stay stuck in that.
Okay, hold on to that point, because you just jumped into the deep part of the pool.
Okay. We're going to back up.
You like jumped in the deep deep end. Okay. Let's do the shallow
Okay,
end
the
first.
shallow, okay.
And then we'll swim to the deep end. And so, because I was thinking about ways people do waste time also.
Social media.
Social media. Social media can be good, but you can end up, you know what, because you get on social media and you say you're going to just be on there for
And
30 minutes. And now it's 2
One
hours
thing
later.
leads to the next, leads to the next.
Right. And that can end up being something that's costed. No, let me call a spade, wasting time. I give you another one. Hours. Another one. On the telephone.
Yes.
Even before even before the quarantine. You know, people can waste a whole lot of time just on the telephone talking about a lot of times things that, what were you going to say?
Talking about and saying nothing.
Saying nothing. Talking about things that are none of their business. Okay, so that's a couple of things. Okay, anything else before we go back to the victim?
The deep part.
Before we go back, before we swim and have to tread some water in that deep part.
Yeah, just like I said, just wasting time.
Ooh,
What do you have?
sometimes watching too much TV.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, because your life is very full, like my life. But you ever get like sick and have to be in the bed, and now you're watching TV, and at first it's like, oh, I have time to watch some TV. Now you're like 5-6 days later, and you're like, is this what people do all day, every day?
Yes.
Watch TV. So there's some shallow things that people do to waste time. Now we go to the deep end. Okay. So what you were saying now, seriously, what you were
Yeah,
going to say?
sometimes we're stuck in situations, in careers, in things that we know that we're not supposed to be in.
Oh, okay.
The Lord has shown us we should be doing something else, and we're stuck in that because of fear or doubt or all these
write
different
that
things.
down. Okay.
And so we're literally wasting time, knowing that we should be doing other things.
Yeah, knowing that we should be doing other things. So that's something, we're going to come back to that one. Another thing that I have thought about, how we waste time with a victim mentality sometimes. Feeling sorry for ourselves.
Yes.
Feeling sorry for something that has taken place in our lives. And I've said this so many times. Oh, I forgot to say when I was introducing you that you have been a speaker at our God's Women's Conference on a few occasions. And we are going to have a God's Women's Conference again when all this is over. But the victim mentality, I've told women so many times, you know, you can't go back to yesterday. It's over. You can't stay there. And Michelle, I pulled up this quote today, and I hope I can find it real quick. It says, you can't have a better tomorrow if you're thinking about yesterday all the time. And that was Charles Kettering. And then somebody else said, regret for wasted time is just more wasted time. A regret for wasted time.
One thing I remember the elders used to tell us, you can't cry over spilled milk.
Right, you can't cry over spilled milk.
It's already done. So how do we move forward and not wasting that time? How do we move forward? And I think sometimes people don't have the tools and what they need in order to not waste time.
Right.
We get so used to wasting time, you know, myself included.
Everybody
I have to
does,
shut off the social media sometimes. I have to shut off the television sometimes and say, okay, that's enough. Shut down the phone conversations when it's getting too long. Okay, I've been on this phone an hour. It's time to shut it down. You know, there's only so much you can talk about.
And seriously, there's only so much you can talk about. Now, if it's your mom or your sister, like I talk to my mom in Illinois often. But seriously, I have found, for me at least, that if I'm on the phone talking to somebody and it's not business and there's only so much church and stuff you can talk about, after a while, you're normally talking about something that you shouldn't be talking about.
That's so true.
You know, seriously. And when you cross over that line, and you know, I've had to tell people, sometimes when I'm on the phone like that and somebody's starting to say something about somebody, I kind of like clam up, and then they're like, Pastor Shar? And I'm like, you know what, honestly, there's nothing I can do about that. That's none of my business. And unless I can attach your address, your name and your address to this conversation, if you want me to go back and talk to somebody about this, I will. but only if I can attach your address to that, your name. Anyhow, so let's talk about some things we could do right now as far as redeeming the time. Okay, because if we don't want to waste our time, if I'm telling you, Michelle, don't waste your time with this, okay, then the next question is, okay, well, I don't want to waste time, but how can I redeem the time? What can I do to make this moment count?
Yes, yes.
I have this quote from Dr. Seuss. How did it get so late so soon? How did it get so late so soon?
And that reminds me of Moses and the Israelites and wandering in the wilderness for 40 years.
Oh.
All that time when it could have taken way less than that, right?
Yeah, a
And-
week. 7 days, 7 to 10 days.
And so it's like, wow, you know, we don't want to be like that. We don't
Yeah.
want to be doing stuff that we shouldn't be doing. And you brought out an amazing point is because of that sin and different
Right.
things that were going
Right,
on.
right.
Instead of just listening to what God was saying
Yeah.
concerning our time, because He's the giver of time. Yeah,
And
He's the giver of time.
with the faith, you know, when you talked about that with the Moses story and the children of Israel having to wander for 40 years, and now, yeah, they wasted that time. They wasted
Time wasted.
40 years, but that time was, well, okay, now we have another play on words. Okay. They could have got there much quicker, but then God did have to teach them some things. So all things
and
work
how
together.
many of us have that same story?
Same story. Oh my God. So many times, yes, we could have gotten accomplished something
Yes.
so much faster had we just listened to the Lord. I need to.
Had we just listened. And you know, we follow, you know, in the car you have your GPS system, right? And you want to get the quickest route.
Yeah.
And we'll listen to a global positioning system before we listen to God's positioning system. Why not? If He says go left, guess what? If you go left, but no, sometimes we say, oh no, I know a quicker way. I'm gonna make a right, and then next thing you know, there's so many pitfalls, road construction. Before you
Yeah.
know it, it took you an hour to get somewhere where it would have taken 10, 15 minutes.
You know where that comes, you know, I was saying on my Facebook show today, and for those of you that are new to the show, every day at 12 noon I do a Facebook Live Bible study, and right now we're talking about how to study your Bible. So I was telling them, either yesterday or today, I was saying that I was getting ready to go to Bible study a year or so ago, and I was late. I was running late, and I know the quick way to go. But I got to the corner, and the Spirit of God was so strong. Turn left and go this way. And I'm like, and I'm telling God, I'm late. That way is the longer way. And I'm like, but if I go this way, I'm going to still be late, but I'm going to really be late if I go that way. But the Spirit of God was so strong within me that I did turn left and I took the longer way. And yes, I was late. But you know what? I was telling my Facebook, I won't know till I get to heaven why God told me that. But I can guarantee you that something was going to cost something. My life, my time, something. So I listened to God. And with those children of Israel, see, this is a matter of faith. This is a matter of sometimes when God tells you to do something and it makes absolutely no sense. So with the children of Israel, God had already promised them this promised land. God had said, go and spy out the land so that they can, because God's already, He's already taken them through the wilderness for 40 years, kept their shoes, their clothes, everything. Miracle after miracle. Took care of them. Miracle after miracle. So they have no excuse. But then when they see the giants in the land, then they're not gonna do it. Now I'm making a quick point here. So now they're not gonna go and take and go within the power of God. And then God pronounces that judgment, and then they say, oh, now we'll go. And God said, no, it's too late now. And now you are going to have to suffer the consequences of that.
So you asked me the question, how do you redeem time? I would say heed the voice of God.
That's number one.
So
I'm
a
gonna
lot
write
of
that
times
down.
we say we don't have time to get in the presence of God. How do you not have time for the creator of time? I just don't understand that.
That is so good. How do you
we
not
have time?
for the wait a minute?
The
You just
creator
said
of
it,
time.
for the creator of time.
How and that's
that
the
is so
only way, because like even once the Israelites got to the promised land, they were there. You know, it's like he can take you from one place to the next instantly if you spend that time in his presence,
Yeah.
praying, fasting, seeking to what? Hear his voice.
Hear his voice. I don't know which theologian it was, great theologian that said, I wish my husband was in here. He said, I have so much to do today that he normally spend an hour praying. He says, I have so much to do today, I have to spend 2 hours praying.
I love
that's
that.
so much
Yes.
to do.
Yes.
And okay, so let's just talk about some of the ways, oh, I have one more thing that for Christians especially, we waste time. Making speeches about stuff we would like to say to tell people when they do us wrong. Okay, because I remember back in the day, I remember too many times speeches that I would like to, people offend you, and you would just like to give these speeches, but you know you can't because you don't want to lose your testimony. So we spend a lot of time. I know I don't do that anymore, but I have. So I know what that's like. So times on what you would like to say. Yeah. And you're like,
Yeah, I know that. I know that. And even then, now I'm knowing, I've learned to even take those, because, you know, we're still human, and we still have very human feelings, emotions. We get offended, our feelings get hurt. I mean, unless we're a robot, you know, we still feel. And those are the things that when we are spending time in the presence of the Lord, we can take it to Him.
yes.
And He will give us the wisdom, how to handle it, how to navigate through that, whether how to even speak the words to tell a person, you know, that really offended me or that hurt my feelings, how to do that. Because I think as Christians, sometimes it's too fake, you know.
Yeah,
You know, we don't want to be real with each other.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way that was said, but you don't have to get the neck rolling and the popping and all that to get your point across.
And so you said wisdom. If any man lack wisdom, if any man lacks wisdom, let him go to God.
Yes.
God will freely give us that wisdom. So I just really wanted to make sure that I got that in there as far as redeeming the time.
Yes.
So for people wanting to make the most of their time, because time is precious. And you know, you know me, Michelle. I'm writing everything. And Benjamin Franklin, lost time is never found again. Just never can find it again. Another one, time is free, but it's priceless. You can own it, but you can't. Wait a minute. You can own it. You cannot own it, but you can use it. You cannot keep it, but you can spend it. Once you've lost it, you can never get it back.
And time is the most valuable thing that we have. More than money, more than whatever careers we have, whatever jewelry we have, whatever cars we drive. Time is the most valuable and the most precious thing that we will ever have. And it's so important that we make time, because what is it? Like you said, we spend time.
We spend
you spend
time.
money, you spend
Right.
time.
And we wish
What's more
we
valuable?
had more time.
Yes.
And you can wish you had more time if all you want. But guess what? You have the same 24 hours in a day that I have in a
And
day.
that goes into managing our time.
Managing our time.
You know, managing the time that we spend with God,
Right.
managing the time that we spend with our family, our friends, our
Right.
loved ones, the time that we spend on our job or working our businesses. It's so important that we manage and we're good stewards over what God has given us, right? Because
Yeah.
whether we live to be 100 years or however long, it's still it's a limit.
It's like this, and I kind of knew you were going to go there because I love hourglasses. Okay, so it's like, this is the hourglass. And this is how much time. These are the sands of time. Remember that soap opera? I can't remember the word. Like the sands of time. So, the days of our lives.
Yes,
So
these
are the days of our
Yes.
lives. And so you see this, and everybody starts off with so much time in their hourglass.
Yeah.
Everybody starts off with X number of minutes, X number of seconds. And I'm actually just keep that like that so we can actually see that. So many minutes, so many seconds.
Yes.
And we have to decide, first of all, how we're going to use those minutes. But we also have to ask God, how do you want us? Trust in the Lord with all thine heart.
Yes.
Lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him because he'll direct our path.
Yes.
Yeah. God, how, I love to wake up in the morning and just say, Lord,
Yes.
go on.
I'm with you on that. What would you have me to do?
What would you have me to do with my day today? And that doesn't mean, and you said something when we were talking about this earlier, that doesn't mean you're always doing stuff, even great things. Sometimes, I think it was Michael, I think your brother talked about taking time for yourself.
Yes.
Time for yourself. We need to come up with a great acronym for time. If somebody out there, if you have a great acronym for time, you can email me. It's the living room with Charlene at gmail.com. The living room with Charlene at gmail.com. If you have a great acronym for time, we would love to use that.
Yes.
Send us a thing saying you can use this.
That's right. That's right.
You know what? And so, go on, Michelle.
No, what you're saying is so important. It is important that we make time for rest. Even on the seventh day, what happened?
God rested.
Right? And I think that so many times we get caught up in projects and we get caught up in relationships and we get caught up in all of these things, trying to do everything.
Then we don't have time for God.
No time for God. No time to just
Rest. And if you get to the place where you don't take the time for yourself, then your body will say, okay, you didn't have time for me, so I'm going to shut down. How about if I just shut you down so that, and the body says, I'm going to take my time. And you know, God does the same thing too. When we don't have enough time for God, to listen to God, because we have so many things going on in our lives, so many voices. That's why so many times at night, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're trying to go back to sleep and you're trying to fix your pillow and nothing is working. And finally, God is like, you didn't have time for me. You didn't have time for me today. So now I want my time because oh my God, you know what? This is going to take me, even in relationships. Wait a minute. So our relationship with God, time is everything.
Yes.
Our relationship with our friends, our spouse, is time. How many times you just don't have any time for
Because
me?
it's in the time that the relationship is actually built, established, right?
Yes.
You can't have a relationship with someone you've never spent any time with.
I heard a long time ago that love is spelled Time. So we're just talking about not wasting your time, and now we kind of have flipped it over from the negative to the positive, why we don't want to waste our time. Before we go there anyplace else with this, Michelle, I want to read this from Ecclesiastes, because the Word of God is always our how'd you put it? The foundation, our jumping off point.
Yes.
So just these few verses from Ecclesiastes 3. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. And you know what? I want to stop right there before I even read this. A time to be born and a time to die. Now, you and Michael are a lot younger than we are. But I've heard so many times, and I've said it myself, I have more years in back of me. Well, actually, so do you. We have more years in back of us. We have more time in back of us than we have in front of us. And knowing how fast time goes,
And when we talked about it earlier, Jesus was here for how long? And he accomplished
33 years.
everything that he needed to do in the time.
Right, because he didn't waste time. Because he wasn't wasting time. And so many times people will say things like, if I just had more time. Oh, if I just had some extra time. But I believe, and I know you do too, I truly believe that God he saved us for a purpose.
Yes.
And everything he has purposed us for, I believe God has given us the time. So if we have some dreams, if we have some God-given dreams that have not come to fruition, it's either not the appointed time,
Right.
or maybe we haven't taken.
And we can't lose hope, even in sometimes the waiting season, because like you said, it may not be the right time. There is a set time that God has. There was a set time we talked about for even Jesus to come into the earth realm.
Right.
There's a set time for him to return.
Right.
There's a set time for
God's
everything.
timing.
And so
Right.
we have to maintain the hope even in the midst of not wasting time. You
Not
know, and I
wasting
think when
time.
You're
Right.
hopeful, and you're excited about the things that God is going to do.
Yes.
Right?
I love that. For what God's going to do, and always holding on to that, never giving up. And so I wanted to stop there because I think that's just a good place, and that's why God probably put it there first. A time to be born and a time to die. You're going to be born. We were all born. We're going to all die. What's in between? What is in between? And I'll finish reading this real quick. So a time to plant and a time to uproot. My gosh, Michelle, we could take each one of these. A time to plant and a time to uproot. I'm thinking about some friendships there. There's a time sometime to uproot that friendship. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. So I love this verse, this passage when God tells us about time.
Yes.
So go on.
Understanding time. I believe it's the tribe of Ishkar who understood timing.
Who was that?
Ishkar is the
okay,
how they
yes.
understood the timing.
The times.
Yeah,
The times
and
of-
when it's a time for this and when
Right,
it's a time for that.
right.
And again, that goes back to hearing the voice of God, heeding the voice of God, and understanding when the times and the seasons, because even the times that we're living in right now, the Lord was just showing me how there's nothing new under the sun. The things that we're experiencing now has happened generation after generation after generation.
Right, I just
and
heard
so
that.
we have to be
Yeah.
so careful not to get caught up in the time of what's going on.
Right.
And really see and understand what God is doing in this season. And one thing that the Lord was showing me is that even in this time of quarantine, isolation, all these different things, it's a time that He is bringing His children closer to Him, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, because we're praying in our homes like never before.
Really?
People who have never read their word are reading their word like never before. So they're utilizing this time even to get closer to the Lord. And I believe when you're getting closer to God, you're never wasting your time.
You're never wasting your time. And even with my Facebook Live, I've been doing that for just over 3 years now. And during this time of quarantine, so many more people are coming on and investing in time with the Lord.
Yes.
I like that. So time and dreams. So tell me about your time. What are your dreams? How are you spending your time? How do you want to spend your time? And
So I was
yeah.
sharing with you the other day how I do have like a schedule that I'm
Thank you.
trying to abide by.
Okay.
Of course, sometimes your day gets away from that, but in terms of managing my time, from the time that I wake up, I have a set time that my alarm goes off.
Okay.
The first part of my morning time with the Lord, and then my day just kind of breaks down. Like you said, I wear many, many hats.
Yes.
Working, being a mom, even though my son is an adult young man, but there's still certain things that I have to see to for him
Exactly.
as well. I do ministry at my church as
Yes.
well, so very active there in the ministry, even in the midst of all what's going on. I think a lot of ministries are working even more during this time
Oh
of
yeah. Oh yeah.
so I'm spending more time, ministering to people and encouraging people, praying. I do a prayer call 3 times a week. And
Wow.
so definitely a lot going on, producing, writing, singing.
I'm getting tired. I'm getting
Yes.
tired listening to your
Yes.
time.
So if I didn't manage my time,
Right.
I would be all over the place.
Oh, you just said something. Okay, this is one of the reasons why we end up wasting time, because we don't manage the time. But before you can even manage the time, you have to have some sort of a goal on what you want to accomplish with your time. And you know what, even what you just said, managing your time. We think about managers with people, managing tasks, but managing time, that's something that really can kind of...
And we talk about being a good steward, right?
Yes.
Over the things that God blesses us with.
Right.
Well, we need to be a good steward over the time that He
time.
gives us. And it's so easy to waste time. It really is. I think
my
it's
gosh.
sometimes easier to waste time than it is to
use
manage
time.
and to
Yes,
utilize
it really
because
is.
sometimes I'll plan dinner and my whole day goes by, and it's like 8 o'clock at night, and I'm like, wait a minute, I was supposed to cook. Where did the time go?
That happened to me this last Saturday. I had said that Saturday was July 4th, but we weren't doing July 4th. This is the first year in 31 years that I haven't hosted a big July 4th. First time. So, but we said that we weren't going to do anything because we have to get up like at 5:30 in the morning to be at church, to come here to the empty church to do the show, I don't want to even call it a show, but to do church, because we are the church. Even if there's not the people here, the church is still listening to us. But anyhow, and so I know my son has to be here at 5:30, and my pastor and I. So we decided we would just do something for the family on July 4th, Saturday, July 5th. So I said, okay, I'm going to cook. And I went to the grocery store. Wait a minute, so I'm doing all this stuff. Now I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, I haven't even gone to the grocery store. Now my mind is saying the day before, I'm going to cook. I'm going to have everything done in advance. I go to the grocery store. I'm buying like a couple $100 worth of groceries. I get home. I think somebody called me. And now I'm cooking. And now it is late. It's like almost 9 o'clock at night. I'm deciding I'm wanting to make a banana pudding for my husband. And Pastor's from Louisiana. He don't want banana pudding with that box stuff. He wants a real banana pudding with the separating the eggs, with the egg yolks and the flour and the sugar and the vanilla over a double boiler. And the bottom line is, so I'm sitting up here and I'm stirring this, and I'm looking at the clock. Now it's getting like 10 o'clock. I got food in the oven that will not come out the oven until 11 o'clock. And I'm like, why didn't I do what I said and have this dinner done by like 6 o'clock in the evening? And then I would have my evening. And so that's what you're saying. So
Yes.
many times, time just goes and you're not even, it's like it's so easy.
And when you were saying that, the Holy Spirit was ministering to me. Imagine all of those people that when they stand before God and He asks you, what did you do with the time
Wow.
that I gave you? And we're busy doing a whole lot of nothing. Busy doing a whole lot of things, and our intention is good. But what did you really do with the time?
Yeah. And let's change it. What did you really do with your time?
Your time, yes.
With your time. So
Which
I know,
really belongs to Him, right?
which really belongs to
Yes.
God. And once again, it's redeeming the time. It's God, will you direct my path on this day? Will you, not just my path, but my time?
Because we can get caught up just even in life with doing all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But is it what we're supposed to be doing? Is it, you know, we can, the same thing. Like I said, I'll be ready, okay, I'm gonna go to the grocery store, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then I'll end up cleaning the closet or, you know, cleaning out my car or doing something totally different than what I had planned.
So I think we're talking about having a plan, sticking to the plan, and wait a minute, having a focused plan that has a purposed plan. Having a purposed, and I like that myself. I need to write that one down. Having a purposed plan. I just thought about my book, The Journey from Pain to Purpose. But having a purposed plan, and I may have to even put something as a prequel, a God-given purposed plan. And you know what, Michelle? That's knowing why you're here. That's knowing what your life is about. I think I was telling you the other day when we were on the phone that I have a threefold purpose for my life. I got it 25 years ago. To save souls, to change lives, and to bring hope using the Word of God. And so pretty much, now I know that's very vast, but I'm still always looking I'm always going back to that foundation. My number one thing is seriously saving souls for this time and changing lives and bringing hope. But I want to go back to that purposed plan, a God-given purpose plan. So you got to have a God-given purpose plan. And then with that plan, we have to, this is the Habakkuk, write down the vision and make it plain. And Michael, when we were in the office just before we came down, your brother Michael said something that I said like, wow. You know, remember he said, because when you write it down, it manifests itself. You know, when you write it down, you have a target. And you know, Pastor Chuck says this all the time. If you don't have a target, you don't have anything to aim for.
Most architects will tell you they won't build a house without the blueprint, right? You gotta have the
blueprint. Wait a minute, wait. You just said something. Oh my gosh, you just said something. Wait a minute. Before the architect does anything, he sees it in his mind. That's our life. I mean, you gotta see it.
And I always say, beginning with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind when we start our day. If you kind of have the end, okay, these are the things that I want to get accomplished, and then we give those plans to the Lord, right? And it's like, Lord, you bless this day. In my relationships, those that are married, those that have children, Lord, how do I spend my time with the people that I love today? How do I spend my time working on these projects? How do I spend time resting and finding time for myself?
And what's it going to look like at the end? Now, wow. Okay. On one hand, I'm not going to go here, but I'm going to kind of throw this out first. On one hand, what do we want our life to look like at the end? What's the end? What do we want the end to look like? 'Cause I've been asking myself that a lot. That this last year, like I said, the older you get, the more you do, the more precious time becomes. You know,
what do you want people to remember?
What do you want people to remember?
With your time.
You for, and that's something I'm going to ask you. That think about right now where you are today, and then ask yourself, if God even gives you another 10, 20, 25 years, what do you want people to say about you at your homegoing service? Or behind closed doors, because at homegoing service, too many times people say stuff, nice stuff.
But there's been things said today, right?
Okay, well,
like
that's where I want to go.
Backs. Yes.
Whatever you want them to say about you at the end of your life, start focusing on that, like now, today. But you know, you were talking, so I was going to just go even micro. That's macro. Micro. When I put together a message, I'm always asking myself, and you're a preacher, I'm a preacher, we're both teachers of the Word of God. So, but if I'm putting together a message that I'm going to stand up in a pulpit and give, I want to know where do I want the people to be at the end of this message? Okay, I'm not just teaching, preaching, whatever, just that. Where do I want people to be at the end? What do I want the end of this to look like? So I love that, looking at the end right now. So we have this focused, this God-given purposed plan where God's telling us. And do you have some dreams that have not been accomplished yet?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, yes, and right now, with the time that I have, I am working toward those dreams. Every day, trying to do a little something, even if it's just praying over it, right? Because sometimes it's not always about being busy.
Right.
It's just praying and keeping it on the altar and knowing, okay, Lord, this is something. I'm reminded of Joseph. You know how he had to go from the pit to the prison before he got to the palace.
Right.
Sometimes we find ourselves in those prison places, but we can still see the palace, you know. And so in the midst of being in the pit and in the prison, I'm spending time here, and in the pit, even though it seems like, we're being buried, but when you're buried, you're there, so that you can grow, right?
Yes.
And then even in the prison, it may seem like isolation. I know many people have reflected on this time of quarantine as being like in prison, but even in that, it's a time to grow. It's a time to learn. It's a time to prepare. And as I was on my way over here, that's what the Lord spoke to my spirit, and to those that are listening. This is a time to prepare for the set time.
For that set time. And see, so many times we want things to be microwave. We want them to happen overnight, but see, God gives us time for us to grow. You were just talking about Joseph in prison. Joseph's like one of my favorite people in the Word of God. But when I look at everything that Joseph learned away from his family, not just in Potiphar's house, but even those couple years in prison, that was like the last lessons that God wanted to teach Joseph. He had taught him a whole lot for all the years that he was in Potiphar's house. Taught him a whole lot because he was such a spoiled, he was so coddled in his daddy's house. Okay, so now he's in Potiphar's house, and God's teaching him administration. God's teaching him how to work, because Jacob didn't have him hardly doing any work. So God's teaching him the value of work. And he's having to hold on. He's just all the tests that he went through. But when you get to that prison time, when I look at Joseph's time in prison, what I mainly see is Joseph getting to the end of himself.
Ooh.
And I think that a God-given focused dream, a God-given focused plan takes place when you realize this is not about you. Life is not about us. It's about the God-given purpose plan.
Yes.
That God has purposed for us. And so when Joseph got to that place where it's no longer about him, see, I think that was a very fateful morning when he walked into that jail cell after being disappointed. You know the story. After being disappointed, like, where is God? Where is God? Why? Wow, it's one thing his brothers sold him. Okay, he has all those years to reflect on that, but now he's raised himself back up, and then somebody lies on them and gets away with it, and he's in prison, but he gets past himself.
Yes.
Okay, and when that fateful morning that he walked into that jail cell, and neither the butler nor the baker told him that there was something wrong. When you read the passage, he saw it in their countenance. We need to learn. Now, both of us have a gift of exhortation, so I know you definitely know what I'm talking about. But he saw, I get all these things. It's like when Jesus saw, Jesus saw. Okay. But anyhow, the main thing is he saw their countenance was fallen. And then he gives them a word. And because he saw their pain, that was going to catapult him. It was going to be 2 more years.
Yes.
But that day was going to be that beginning of the last day in that prison cell. And but it was going to be 2 more years. And so many times, that's what I'm saying, so many times we don't understand. It's not microwave. God's not interested in being a
So when you
son.
say my dreams,
Yeah,
they're
your
not
dream.
mine.
Oh my God, Michelle.
They're not mine.
Oh,
They're not
so
mine.
good. They're not yours. And my dreams are not mine. And
He
your
gave
dreams
them.
should not be
They're not
yours.
So he gives them to us, right? And he shows us certain things. And so and that's why whenever anyone talks about dreams, like you said, Joseph is one of my favorite.
Yeah. We've talked about Joseph so many times.
Because I can relate so much
Yeah.
to his experience.
Yes.
And so just realizing, like you said, coming to the end of self, realizing
Right.
that, you know, it's not about me. Lord, it's literally all about you. And so
Wow.
my thing is when people remember me, I want them to remember my love for God and my love for God's people.
And God gives you time to have that testimony.
Yes.
Okay, time to do that. When you said something a few minutes ago, I was thinking about the Word of God says the blessings of God are yea and amen. Seriously, that's a time verse when you really think about it. I love how Pastor Chuck says, he says, God doesn't say no, he says yes, later, or better. So sometimes God does tell you yes, you asked for it, you got it.
It's instant.
Instant, okay? But sometimes, isn't it amazing how many times we say time even in our vernacular? Sometimes God says later. I'm gonna do this for you eventually, but in due season.
Yes.
There's a season for everything. And it might take some time before God accomplishes this for you. Yes, later, and better. And better normally also takes some time. These last week on the show I talked about cricket moments. We have one of our staff, my husband's administrative assistant, her name is Melba, and she's part Indian. And she talks about cricket moments when you just hear something and you don't even want to say anything. It's just like a cricket moment. You want to just think. And I'm having like all these cricket moments on this show, and I know we got to keep talking, but I'm like, I just want to stop.
In that,
And say,
right? In
yeah.
that, I know.
Yeah, and we only have about
Yes.
we only have like about 5 minutes left anyhow. So I know for me, one of the things that I want to do right now in this season to redeem the time, well, first of all, you know, I'm going to continue to do my Facebook Live, and that takes a lot of time to prepare every morning. When you do something on Facebook, it's there for like ever and ever and ever, and so you need to know what you're talking about. Plus, even beside that, I want to give people something that they can use for the day. So I do those things, and my time right now, since COVID, my time was already like really, really full.
Yes.
Since COVID, I'm like you. It's like, wow, everything that now is included. I thought my schedule was already full.
Right. You would think like it would slow down for some of us, but it seems like it just picked up. And you're literally finding time, like we talked about earlier, to rest, finding time, like, and then I'll hear people saying, I didn't have anything to do today, and I'm finding myself like,
Really?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, but you just said something. Finding time. These are things, I'm gonna have to write some of these things down, and we'll have to talk. Can you come back next week? Because we're gonna have to do part 2 to this.
Okay.
Because we haven't even scratched the surface of not wasting time. I love to listen to Miles Monroe.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and I think about the time God gave him, and but God gave him all the time that he needed to accomplish. I listened to
And
some
he
of his.
did quite a bit.
He did quite a bit. He accomplished his dream.
Yes.
I was listening
Yes.
to a message of his this morning,
My
and I'm
goodness.
like, wow! Even though God took him home early
And
for
years
us,
later, we're still eating up to that word, because I do the same thing.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's just awesome when it talks. When he talks a lot about time, redeeming the time, making the most of your time, and so. But anyhow, going back to, and I do this all the time. I chase these rabbits. So, but for me right now, like I said, my time my time is more filled than ever before. And if you're in ministry, that is going to take place. But one of the things I am going to make the time to do, and excuse me, is I really want to learn Spanish.
Okay.
That is like a dream of mine. One of my sons speaks fluent Spanish, Christopher.
Okay.
And when Chris was in USC, he actually went and studied down in Nicaragua and Guatemala, well, he went down to Central America. And he always went places where they didn't speak any English. So he knows, yeah. So anyhow, sometimes he's at the house and he's talking Spanish. Not to me, when he doesn't want me to understand what he's saying. So, anyhow, I just keep telling him, one of these days, you're going to say something, and I'm going to say, oh, this is what you said. But it's something that I would love to learn Spanish. It would help me in my business. You know, I'm in Mary Kay. So are you. You're on my team.
Yes.
And in my Mary Kay, I know I could help a lot more women if I knew Spanish. And I look at my business not as a business, but as a ministry where I'm helping women feel better about themselves. So anyhow, so I know I want to learn some Spanish. I want to write a couple more books.
Yes.
So I have those goals. One of the things that one of the dreams that I'm accomplishing right now is this show.
Yes.
I know you and I have talked about this for so many
And
years.
here, look at the set time. It's time.
It's
We're
the
here.
set time.
Yes.
And remember I told you the other day when I was up for those 3 hours the other night, I was up for
Yes.
3 hours praying. I didn't tell you what I was praying about. I was praying about, Lord, I need somebody to help me with this show. I need somebody to help me with content because every week I'm trying to think of what we're going to do, you know, for that week. And then you called me that morning.
Wow.
Okay, early in the morning, you're calling me, and I'm like, wow. And then, you know, we stayed on the phone for like over an hour.
And so because of everything that's been going on, it kind of slowed down. And so here it is, you're praying for what you're praying for, I'm praying for what I'm praying for, and then God's like, okay.
It's bringing them together, and this is how God works. It's almost like I often use the example of the orange.
Don't lose hope, people of God. Whoever's listening, do not lose hope, because God does have a set and appointed time. I just wanted to just say that.
No, that's
I just wanted to
fine.
say that right there, because sometimes we do get frustrated in the process, and we want to give up in the process of it because we're not seeing it yet. But the same way that God brought this together, He's bringing it together for you as well. He's bringing it together for you.
It's divine timing.
It's divine timing. And you were saying about the orange.
I'm not even going to say that. Well, I'll say the orange like really, really quick because I want to just give a final thought here too. It's just reminded me of the story of the two sisters, and they both wanted this orange.
Wow.
And at the end of the day, one sister wanted the orange because she wanted the peel. She was a baker.
Come on.
And the other sister wanted the pulp because she just wanted orange juice. They both, that's a win-win. And for you and I, it's like God brought this orange together. And seriously, Michelle, you and I have been talking about this for years.
Yes, we have.
Okay, but I do want to say this, as even in closing, to each and every person out there. So God will always have a butler for you. God will always have a butler for you. Joseph, that butler was the one that ended up speaking to Pharaoh on Joseph's behalf. And a butler is somebody that opens doors. And so for you today, you might have some dreams and you're wondering, do I still have enough time? Do I have enough time? God has given you the time. And if you really feel like you don't, you can be like Joshua and you can pray and ask God to give you more time. That's what God did for Joshua. When Joshua was fighting the 5 kings of the Amorites, if you remember, you can go and you can look this up in the book of Joshua. The point was this, that Joshua was fighting on God's behalf. God had ordained Joshua to lead the children of Israel into conquering the promised land because God had promised that land to Abraham. all these 5 kings were out from behind their walled cities. When Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, the people were behind the walled city, but now these 5 kings were outside of their walled cities. And Joshua looked and he realized if they could defeat these kings now, it would shorten the time that for him to conquer, to accomplish the conquest of the promised land. But there wasn't enough time. So